All right, all week long, we've been giving you interesting storylines. Talked about the why not us, why not now? A couple of long shots when the season began playing in the Super Bowl. Yesterday, the offensive coordinators of both teams, Josh McDaniel, in his 10th Super Bowl on Sunday. There's only been 60. And Clint Kubiak is going to be the new head coach of the Vegas Raiders. But you see this? Speaking of new coaches, we're going to talk about that coming up with an interesting thought on the radio station yesterday. But let me mention, here's this fun fact I found, Jack. You know that the Seattle Seahawks and their top-ranked defense have not allowed a single point in the fourth quarter in 3 consecutive games? 3 games in a row. Not a single point.
Wow.
I mean, games are decided in the fourth quarter,
Absolutely.
right? There's back and forth. No. 3 straight games, the Seattle Seahawks have not allowed a point in the fourth quarter, including in the NFC title game against the Rams. Blanked the Rams to win 31-27.
That big fourth down stop that ended up being the game with like 5-6 minutes left.
But even more improbably, the New England Patriots, whose defense was not highly ranked in the regular season but has come on strong in the postseason, they haven't allowed a single point in the fourth quarter in 4 consecutive games. All 3 of their playoff games and their Week 18 finale, they haven't allowed a point in the fourth quarter. So take these 2 teams, that's 7 consecutive quarters, 0 points allowed in fourth quarters. The over-under, if you're looking at the wagering side of things, Jack, over-under for the fourth quarter, because you can bet on that. You can bet on first quarters, second quarters, halftime. Fourth quarter over-under, I looked at it, 12.5. 12.5. These 2 teams have not allowed a donut in 7 quarters. That tells you that's great defense.
Yeah.
There's a little luck there, but scheme. Mike Vrabel, both coaches are defensive head coaches who make adjustments as the game goes on. That's incredible. 7 straight quarters, 4 games for the Patriots, 3 for the Seahawks. Haven't allowed a point in the fourth quarter.
Oh, these are good. These are the good stats people need for wagers.
Yeah,
You're
well,
not giving us anthem over-unders.
I don't think, I think teams will score in the fourth quarter in this Super Bowl, but maybe not. I don't know. Rams didn't. Rams are the best offense in the league.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a low-scoring Super Bowl.
You think so?
Yeah, probably.
Well, in the next hour in our A block, I'll get you some interesting stats on, because the Patriots are one of the fastest starting teams in pro football with Josh McDaniel, their offensive coordinator, and the way they scheme it. But here's a headline, or at least a conversation, and the question is, should it be a conversation? Drake Maye's right shoulder. Does this do anything for you? Now, he says he's okay, but listen to Ross Tucker. Ross Tucker is a former NFL player. He's now a CBS analyst, and he was at the opening night on Monday, right, where they all get together and do the media sessions there at the convention center in Santa Clara. Listen to Ross Tucker. He had an observation of Drake Maye from opening night when he was sitting at the podium for an hour answering questions. Ross Tucker with, I think this was on the Dan Patrick show is where I heard this. Here we go. Here's Ross Tucker.
But if you watch the videos, okay, Drake Maye is like this, talking with people, and his left arm is like really demonstrative, and he's not moving this an inch. Not an inch. Now, maybe that's just like his natural thing. But I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of, there you go. I feel like I'm kind of a both hands thing, or even if I'm moving my left hand as I'm talking, there's still some movement over here. It was like it looked awkward. Like, and that my brothers are the guys I look up to, and I'm thinking, is that like, that doesn't seem natural.
This could be breaking news here. Like this demonstration right now.
Nobody has the sounder out here, do we?
Yeah.
All right, so you buying into this Drake Maye shoulder issue thing? There's Ross Tucker saying just Monday night he was kind of had the right shoulder pinned to his side and using the left arm to do his hand gestures. I don't know. And he says he's fine. We'll see.
Yeah, Sam Darnold's oblique looked fine too.
Hey, listen, I'll get you a story coming up at the end of the hour. Lindsey Vaughn's going to try to ski
that's crazy.
downhill with a torn ACL, a ruptured ACL. This is an unbelievable story. We always talk about the Winter Olympics and the Summer Olympics. You don't really know the great storylines until they emerge. Well, here, because we only get them every 4 years. Well, this Lindsey Vaughn story is one to watch, and we'll talk about it. But I think Drake Maye is going to play. I don't think he's got a ruptured, issue in his shoulder. But we will see. There's Ross Tucker with an observation. That's what goes on Radio Row. You know that. All right. Of more interest, Clint Kubiak is the Seattle offense coordinator. We talked about him yesterday, son of Gary Kubiak. He's going to be taking over the Raiders, one of 10 new head coaches in the NFL. Joe Brady, moving up in Buffalo. Kevin Stefanski to Atlanta. Baltimore hired Jesse Minter. Todd Monken was introduced in Cleveland yesterday as the new head coach of the Browns. And that's kind of an unfortunate thing. Is that actually a move up in coaching if you become the head coach of the Browns? You were the offensive coordinator of the Ravens, and then the Georgia Bulldogs before that. I don't know, man.
It's a bit of a monkey's paw.
That's like,
I wish I could be a head coach in the NFL. Well, here you go.
With Jimmy Haslam, thanks a lot. Might don't want to stay where he was, but either way, of course the Giants hired John Harbaugh. You have Clint Kubiak to the Raiders, Robert Saleh to the Tennessee Titans, and Mike McCarthy, former Cowboys coach, to the Steelers. But interestingly, maybe the most underwhelming hire for a lot of people of the 10 was Jeff Hafley to Miami, because it was one of the early ones, right? Jeff Hafley to replace Mike McDonald. Mike McDaniel, I should say. McDonald's the coach of the Seahawks.
I think we should make them change some of these names.
I know. It's too many McDonald's and McDaniels. But so Jeff Hafley was hired, and it was really quick, wasn't it? And remember, though, when the decision was being made on general manager, remember the Dolphins fired their general manager during the season. Chris Greer was let go. We know where former Longhorn Quinn Ewers is playing on the Dolphins now and started those last 3 games for them. But Mike McDaniel was ushered out, and Jeff Hafley, the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator, was hired. And he was a head coach in the Boston College Eagles before he went to Green Bay. He kind of bailed on college football when the whole NIL thing started up and the whole, paying players and transfer portal. He's like, I'm out. I'm going to the NFL where I can just coach football. Well, listen to this. I always love finding these cool Radio Row interviews and conversations. Well, yesterday here on Game Time, or after Game Time, it's the Rich Eisen show. And Rich Eisen had a great conversation with Troy Aikman, the Cowboys' legendary quarterback who won 3 Super Bowls. But remember, at the end of the year, the Dolphins brought in their owner, Jeffrey Ross, brought in Troy Aikman to be an advisor with their general manager and head coach search. Remember this? That Aikman was kind of under the radar, that they had brought in. They weren't going to hire Troy Aikman, but they wanted Troy Aikman's advice because Troy's a pretty knowledgeable guy. He calls games and he visits a lot of all 32 teams. He knows the personnel. And, who do I need to know? Well, here's Troy Aikman. He is one of the main reasons, it sounds to me, why the Miami Dolphins hired Jeff Hafley, who, again, of the 10 hires, probably the most unknown. But here's Troy Aikman. This is a cool comment from yesterday's Rich Eisen program.
In broadcasting, obviously I've been doing this a long time, 25 years. There have been coaches who, when I've had production meetings with them, who I didn't know, and as soon as I meet them, I've said, "Wow, this guy, he's not going to be a coordinator long. He's going to be a head coach real soon." Sure. I thought Mike Vrabel was that guy. I thought DeMeco Ryans was that guy. And I'll tell you, I felt that way about Jeff Hafley a year ago, back in 24, when we first did the Packers, our first production meeting with Jeff. I remember saying to our crew, this guy's going to be head coach real soon. And he already had been in college. So I believe he checks all the boxes. I really do. But he does have the challenge of addressing the offensive side of the ball in an offensive league. Not now. I mean, he's hoping that becomes a problem. But like I said, those are the issues that all defensive coaches, head coaches, have to concern themselves with. Yeah.
All right, interesting right there. How about that? Troy Aikman saying, that you come across somebody and you're like, this guy's just different. And he cited Mike Vrabel and DeMeco Ryans as guys who are coordinators, right. And Aikman saying, well, they're not going to be coordinators very long. These guys are different. And that's what you're running an NFL locker room, right? You got 80, you got 60 guys if you include practice squad. You're a leader of men. College coaches, you're leading young people, right? You're developing young people. You're taking young guys when they're a lot of times 18 until they're 22, and now we got even older guys through the portal. But when you get to the NFL or you get to professional sports, Jack, these are adults, right? They've got families. They're grown people. They've got their own opinions. And how do you lead them? How do you galvanize that locker room of grown adults that are making a lot of money? That's the challenge, right? So you're looking for true leadership and the intangibles that go to it. Troy Aikman saying, "Look, I saw it in Jeff Hafley," and he's going to be. I think that's interesting, Jeff, because obviously Troy's been around a lot of great coaches. Jimmy Johnson in his time. And boy, we know the square-offs he had with Barry Switzer when Barry Switzer showed up for a couple of years in Dallas. But what are your thoughts on that, Jeff Hafley? That, again, probably the most underwhelming of the 10 hires, and maybe the most unknown. But there's Troy Aikman saying, "I really like this guy, and he's going to be really good."
Yeah, I think that's a good vote of confidence from Troy Aikman.
Right? But he was advising. That's probably why they hired him.
Exactly your point. sometimes we're not in these interviews, right? We don't know what's going on, and sometimes the big home run hire isn't what works. Sometimes hiring somebody that's just a smart, competent football coach who is a rising star is a good way to go, and that's what the Chargers have done. We'll obviously see. We'll see coming up in the future. That's a tough situation there in Miami, but if it's a good vote of confidence from the people they had in the building advising them in Miami on this hire, then I'm all in. He's comparing him to DeMeco Ryans. That's certainly worked out.
And Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel's in the Super Bowl. DeMeco Ryans has been in. He's played in 6 playoff games in 3 years. You can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, and so Hafley in Miami. Interesting. I'll give you got to win the interview, right?
Right.
I mean, we've told the story many times that Mike Tomlin was hired by the Steelers 20 years ago because he won the interview. He was one of the very first of the now much criticized Rooney Rule, where he only got the interview. A lot of people thought just because of his skin color, and he blew away the Steelers and the Rooneys and was like, oh my gosh, this is our guy. This is exactly what we're looking for. And that means if you're an organization and you have a criteria of what you're looking for, what you want. And then you have someone come in and blow you away and interview you, take him. It's not about the name. It's about who's going to lead your organization, build the culture. When Mike McDonald, the coach of the Seahawks, was hired, he was kind of an underknown coordinator. He was coordinating the Baltimore Ravens defense with John Harbaugh that was so good. But look what he's done in a short amount of time in Seattle because they and their Hall of Fame to be general manager and president, John Schneider, and the owner, they knew what they were looking for. They were looking for, a galvanizer, a leader of men, and here are the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. I don't know. We'll see what the Dolphins do. I thought that was very interesting. Always love finding these cool Radio Row interviews and pieces of info that you need to know if you didn't hear it on the Rich Eisen Show yesterday, which follows our program here on 102.7 ESPN.